This is Sutliff here. I'm going to talk about the expectations or the rules for the Ozzobots. There's 6 rules. The first rule is that when you get your markers, you are only allowed to draw on your paper. Okay? Only draw on your paper. Do not draw on your hands. Don't draw on the robot, don't draw on the table, or accidentally get marker on the table. Pay attention to what you're doing, okay? And do not ruin the marker box either. We're not drawing on anything except for the paper, okay? Rule number 2 is you need to use appropriate coloring techniques. So that means that as you're working on your path, you want to work on tiny sections and make sure that you're not wasting this giant piece of paper. You are going to get a giant piece of paper and you don't want to cover it with black lines everywhere and then realize, oops, I didn't put any code on there, okay? Plan it out carefully. Here's an example of just what you could get done in maybe one day, okay? So we're going to use little sections. We're going to have nice, thick black lines that you draw with the follow side of the marker, okay? And then you're going to have colored sections that you use the fill side, and you need to make little squares, not chunky, fat rectangles. Okay, so here's an example of little squares. Notice that it's actually square shaped instead of long rectangles. Okay. When you want to turn your robot to go down a different way, you need to make sure that you do 90 degrees only. If your turn is too steep, then your robot will not follow it. So here's an example of a perfect corner that you could have your robot turn on, okay? Any more than that and your robot will not follow the path, okay? You can also do a curved line, but be careful with that. Rule number 4 is you need to share your robot with your partner. You have one, and then there's 2 of you at your table. So your robot needs to be in between the 2 of you while you're both drawing your code path, and then whoever is ready to test out their code path first can use the robot and set it on their spot. And if your robot is being used by your partner, you can watch. You can look at the different color code that your partner put on their path, and you can try and predict what the robot might do. You can also let your partner go on their own paper, and you work on yours while you're waiting for your turn to try the robot, okay? You need to share because we only have a certain number of these little guys, okay? Rule number 5 is to carry the robot carefully. I actually don't expect you to carry it until later when the tables are all put away, and then we'll be working on the floor. You cannot drop the robot. That could break it, okay? If you are working at the table, please make sure that your paper is not off the edge of the table so that your robot does not fall off the table, okay? If you drop the robot or the robot falls off the table, I will take it. And then the last rule is to only set the robot on your path and then let it go. You are not allowed to take the robot and push it along with your hand. And you definitely do not want to play with these wheels underneath the robot with your fingers, because that could break the gears inside the robot. Okay? So I think that should do it for all the rules. There's just like one bonus expectation is that you don't waste your whole entire paper just making black lines everywhere that your robot cannot follow. Okay, so I will be showing you some examples of paths your robot will not be able to follow so that you know what to draw and what not to draw.